Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Eerie International, episode 488 this week. My name is David from the United States.
I'm Andi from Germany.
And I'm Dave from the UK.
And we are reunited again to talk about the film Thesis from 1996. I almost said 66. 1996. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, we are a horror show that talks about horror stuff, regardless of the medium. Could be a movie, TV show, book, novel. That's the same thing, kind of. Stage play, video games, radio dramas, whatever it is. If there's a horror bend to it, we will take a look and discuss it. You found us wherever you found us. Continue to find us there. We're also on other places, probably. Just give it a quick little search on the internet. Eerie International podcast, probably give you your best bet. Since we haven't brought it up in a while, there is an airport called Eerie International, so you'll know if you're in the wrong spot if there's plane-related media on your screen. What else? We're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us, Eerie International, everywhere there. And then we also have a Gmail account if you'd like to send us some... I almost had an accent there accidentally. If you'd like to send us some longer form thoughts, eerieinternational@gmail.com. Yeah, let us know if you don't want us to read it on air. Otherwise, we'll read your email and discuss and answer your questions and go with your recommendations, all that jazz. All right. This week, we've got a few things to dive into before we get into our main topic at hand. Andi, kick us off. What did you get into this week?
This is mostly rewatches and one future thing. Well, I rewatched Mad Heidi, the Swiss pulp movie, the Swissploitation movie that we did an episode on, I believe, last year. Mm-hmm. And I again had a great time with it. I think the movie is utterly rewatchable and just a good time and fun, so well made for what they wanted to do. And so if you're interested, if you haven't seen the movie yet, if you haven't listened to our episode yet, Mad Heidi, I do recommend it if you just want to have some fun with a gory action exploitation homage.
And if you're a fan of cheese.
Also, it kind of sounds like you're recording from the Alps right now. There's some beautiful bird song in the background.
It does. I heard that too. It sounds like you're recording a fucking just birds and nature. It sounds very pleasant. I have a
window open.
Honestly, I'm not complaining. I fucking love it.
Yeah, it sounded very peaceful. It just sounded too perfect. It sounded like you were like, I got to set the stage for this next topic.
I need
it turned on some Foley work. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bianca's making bird noises behind you.
I don't know how I get to Jurassic Park with the I don't have dino noises.
Yeah, dude. Well, challenge. The challenge is hitting now.
But birds are the modern day ancestors of dinosaurs.
So. True. So we did also rewatch Jurassic Park.
Hell yeah.
It was a spontaneous rewatch on Friday, because Friday we watched the latest Patrick H. Willems video, which, as we talked about last week when we talked about the music video essay of his, that was when that video was released on YouTube, which means on Nebula he already released the next video, which will come out on YouTube in a few weeks. And the most current video on Nebula is why aren't there more dinosaur movies?
Great question.
And so we watched that, and then after that, Bianca said, let's watch Jurassic Park again. And so we did. And surprise, surprise, it's still great. So when the Willems video comes out on YouTube, I do recommend watching that. It's very good. And Jurassic Park, of course, everyone has seen that. But if you haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. It's still a fantastic movie. And that's it from me.
Cool. I have a few very quick things I wanted to mention. I watched The Mummy, as I mentioned last week. But before I watched The Mummy, I wanted to rewatch Lee Cronin's previous film, which was at this point in time, point of this recording, the newest Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise, which I had not seen since the theater. At the time, I'm sure I talked about it on the podcast. We didn't do an episode over Evil Dead Rise, did we? I don't think so.
No, I think we did the Evil Dead reboot, but not the follow-up.
The remake, that's right. And that was maybe our first Scream make series. It was a long time ago. Have either of you guys seen Evil Dead Rise? I can't remember now.
No.
I have. I went to the cinema to see it, yes.
Okay.
That's the only time I've seen it, yeah.
Okay. Yep, it was for me too. So I pretty much had the same exact experience I had watching it the first time, which was I like it quite a bit. I really love how well it's made. I think Lee Cronin is a pretty competent director, writer. I think he's got a good handle on stuff that looks and feels creepy, on atmosphere. All of the ways that, this is how I felt the first time around too, all of the ways that I think make it a pretty strong horror movie, I think also simultaneously make it kind of, I wouldn't call it a bad Evil Dead movie, but definitely my least favorite. Like far and away my least favorite Evil Dead movie, no contest. I was talking to our friend Austin about it the other day after I finished watching it. He likes it a lot. He's a big fan of it. And honestly, I am too. I think it's a really, really well-made horror movie. The biggest problem for me is that I told Austin, I was like, dude, I'll tell you one thing that I've never thought about watching any other Evil Dead movie. One thing I've never thought about, or never, this sentence has never run through my head until Evil Dead Rise, which is, wow, this person's going to be fucked up forever and is going to need a lot of therapy. Like, that's not something you worry about or care when it comes to Ash and the other people in the Evil Dead. I mean, Ash is kind of the main guy, but the other characters as well. Like, consequences, future mental health, PTSD, trauma, like not something that you're worrying about. You're having fun. You know, the movies can get dark, they can get brutal, but they also can be very funny. Obviously, I'm not trying to explain the Evil Dead franchise on a horror podcast. Like we all probably know how that franchise shakes out. Evil Dead Rise has a bunch of fucking children in it, and it is tough to watch for me. Not even because I have kids. It's just the kids in the movie are pretty great actors. Honestly, everyone in the movie is really good. And that just makes it even more difficult to watch at times. The movie's really cruel. It's really mean. Basically, there's 3 children in this movie, and they, at best, I'm trying to think whoever dies first has the easiest time of these kids. Like, that's how dark the movie is. The worst one off being that she, and I'm slight spoilers here, she gets to see all of her siblings and her mom slowly be driven, tortured, completely fucked up, melded together, and killed multiple times. And it's this little girl, who, by the way, is played by the little girl who played Holly Wheeler in the last season of Stranger Things. I did not know her when I'd seen Evil Dead Rise. And then, obviously, you see her a lot in season 5 of Stranger Things. And as soon as she showed up in Evil Dead Rise, I was like, oh, it's that girl with the fucking dumbass clothes from Stranger Things. I couldn't remember. I knew it was a Wheeler kid, but I couldn't remember what her name was. And she's really good. And it's weird watching her in Evil Dead Rise because she is at the age that she should have been in Stranger Things season 5. Like, all 3 of us liked season 5. I'm not somebody who's bagging on it by any stretch of the imagination, but that was one thing for sure where it was like, this Holly girl's supposed to be a lot younger than how she actually looks. So it's weird watching her in Evil Dead Rise. She's about that exact age. Anyway, really well made movie, great effects, atmosphere. I love that they have a new location. I love that they're expanding on and adding to. Oh, that's right. We talked a little bit about this, Dave. The mythology and adding to it without. It's not a reboot or anything like that. It's just, you know, it all kind of ties in if you know the stuff. But if you don't, it's has a lot of Conjuring in it and at places with like the family stuff, which. So does The Mummy, which I'll talk about in a second. So it's it's a weird movie in that I think it's great. I really enjoy it. I think it's well made. It's also the last Evil Dead movie I will reach for by a long stretch. I would rather watch any of the other ones again before watching Evil Dead Rise, which is just a mean movie. I'm pretty excited about the trailer for the new one. Did you guys watch that yet? Evil Dead Burn?
Yeah,
I did.
Okay. What did you guys think of that trailer? I don't think we talked about it.
Difficult to make anything of it. Like, is it?
It's a teaser, I guess I should say.
Yeah, because I'm guessing it's an extract like from a scene that will be in the movie, but it almost felt like one of those trailers that you used to get for like board games or video games that were made live action because it was cheaper and easier for them to do it. And it was like, here's the feel of the thing that we're advertising, but this isn't actually part of it. And I don't know if that's right or not. This, I'm probably way off, and this is part of the trailer. But it just,
I think your point stands. It's a vibe teaser.
Definitely vibey. Yeah, it doesn't feel Evil Dead to me, but as I said in our chat, like for me, Evil Dead is either we're in a cabin or we're in a medieval zombie apocalypse, or deadite apocalypse, I should say. Which, technically speaking, for legal reasons, not an Evil Dead movie. As Andy and yourself have both pointed out to me on numerous occasions. But yeah, like for me, it's like, okay, this is a different thing, and maybe I need to see Rise to get myself in the headspace of Evil Dead can be anything you want it to be. And also the TV show probably would have helped me realign my thought processes there. But it's a cool trailer. I just don't know how reflective of the movie it's going to be. But I guess that's what makes a really good trailer in a way.
Yeah. There's no plot or character information at all. I mean, just to run it down for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a girl. It's one long unbroken shot. A girl waking up in this house. It's at nighttime. All the lights are pretty much off. She's clearly been knocked out, and then it's this unbroken shot of her crawling through the house trying to get to safety, and then all around her in the background, coming in and out of frame, is just chaos. It seems like it's probably 2 or 3 deadites beating the living fuck out of 2 or 3 normal people. You can't really tell who's infected or who is possessed and who isn't. There's a shot toward the end of the trailer. I've watched it probably 5 times now. There's a shot toward the end of the teaser where there's a person floating, like moving across the ground, and you're like, okay, that's a deadite. Like, but that's basically it. It crashes off screen, off camera. The title comes up, and then that's all you get. Andi, what did you think of the teaser? We haven't talked about it.
I think it was pretty close to what Dave described. It felt mostly like the gimmick for the trailer, but telling you nothing about story, characters, or what. It could be any horror movie. It could be any zombie movie. It's just the gimmick of this oneer where you're following this one character that you know nothing about and her experiencing what is going on around her, what you don't really see that much of. So yeah, that's it. I too had that feeling of this is looks like a bit of a sequence from a video game where you're just running away from zombies or something like that. So anyway, it looked good for what it was, but it doesn't really tell you anything about what kind of movie it will actually be.
I had kind of the same take as you guys. I did like it for sure. I had a little bit of, and the reason I even bring it up other than just being relevant is I had the same sort of thought having just watched Evil Dead Rise of just like, is this going to be another like really, fucking dark Evil Dead movie or whatever? And that kind of stopped me in my tracks where I was like, not a lot of them are dark. Like that, the darkness isn't the problem. Like the Fede Alvarez reboot, the remake, which the first time I watched it, I liked it okay. The second time I watched it, fucking loved it. And as you mentioned, Dave, we did an episode over that. We've talked about it on the podcast. So it's one that's definitely grown on me. It's a dark movie. Like that one does get dark. I think the biggest differentiating factor for me, at least, is there's no kids. And that's the tough part. Like, in a similar way that like when you play a Grand Theft Auto game, it would be very weird to run into a child. Like we've all gotten so used to the idea and the fact that in the city that we're running around in, there's no kids. So, there's no babies, toddler, nothing like that. And the Evil Dead universe to me almost feels that way too, where it's like, there really shouldn't be kids in this world. I know that there are, I'm sure that there have been appearances of children and other ones before, but as like main protagonists where we're really going to watch them suffer and like in multiple ways, is a tough pill to swallow. But I also am really into the idea of what they're doing with the franchise now, which is, with Lee Cronin, Raimi, and co, like they took note of his stuff. I think it was The Hole in the Ground, which is another good movie. I liked quite a bit of his. That one's a lot more low key. And we're like, hey, do an Evil Dead movie, like do your Evil Dead movie. And then they have done the same thing now 2 more times. Evil Dead Burned comes out this year. That's from, I forget his name, but French filmmaker who made that infested spider movie. And then next year, Evil Dead Wrath from the writer-director of The Last Stop at Yuma County, whatever, which I may have mentioned on the show, might have not. I loved it. Not a horror movie, but a great movie. So, yeah, really into what they do and seeing where it goes. I think this is probably one of those rare situations where I don't want to say too close to the franchise. I love Evil Dead. It might be my favorite horror franchise, potentially, arguably. And so I think it is tough for me at times when it feels like some of the fun is pulled out of it, which is what I felt like at times with Evil Dead Rise. There are moments where he leans into the Raimi, Evil Dead aspects, but it's just a lot of bleak shit. So Yeah, like it. Think it's a great horror movie. Not my favorite Evil Dead movie. Very interesting watching The Mummy, which I then saw later that night after I finished Evil Dead Rise, because it is a very much I wouldn't call it a vanity project, but he had full creative control as far as I know. He had final cut. The producers, the studio suggested adding on his name to the front of it, so that's why you see it advertised and whatever as Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Probably also to help it, differentiate from the Brendan Fraser movies. Yeah. But it's for better and for worse, it's fully his thing. And I would say it's mostly for better. It's a messy movie. It's not as messy as The Bride, but I did think about that too. It was like, man, what a year for messy horror movies, where there's a lot going on. There's a lot of swings being made and some hits, but a lot of weird misses too. Overall, I think this one's more consistent than The Bride. I probably in some ways liked it more, had more fun with it. It's just too long. It's a little over maybe like 2 hours 2 hours 10 minutes, which is too long for a movie that is basically The Exorcist mixed with a mummy story. Tonally, it's all over the place. It's very weird. Like, there are moments of genuine comedy, some of which are even like Sam Raimi-esque, like Evil Dead sort of slapsticky almost in that wheelhouse. And then there are other moments that Sean and I went to see it with my friend Sean, we were laughing at that I'm not sure were supposed to be funny. But I also am not sure that they weren't because the movie is inconsistent with tone. There are also multiple moments, much like Evil Dead Rise, that are very cruel and very mean. Stuff involving kids. Like, this one was easier for me in that regard because it wasn't Evil Dead. So I was like, okay, this is just it's its own thing. I'm not expecting certain genre staples and, ways for them to riff on it or subvert it or whatever else. I think the premise of it is really cool. Their daughter goes missing. They're in Egypt. The dad of the family is a reporter. And she gets kidnapped. They can't find her. We cut to 8 years later, and the family has since had another kid, and have basically not really moved on, but they're trying to move on. It's been 8 years and they've just never found their daughter. She ends up showing up in this sarcophagus. She's been buried in this like Egyptian sarcophagus for the past 8 years that she's been missing, and she's all fucked up. She's all like she's got like facial deformity stuff going on, like her hands and feet are all like kind of curling, like there's all this stuff, and mentally obviously she's super like shell shocked and mostly won't really talk. One of the things I've seen a lot online that people talk about, which I think is true, I felt it a little bit too. You have to suspend a lot of disbelief in this movie, even more so than you would in a movie called Lee Cronin's The Mummy, where this family, these parents, like, there's at one point, it's a mild spoiler, at one point, the daughter, Katie, the little mummy girl, she drop kicks her grandma out of a fucking window. And the parents are just like, well, she's going through a lot. She was like, let's get her. They just kind of dust her off and move on. Yeah. And that is one of multiple moments in the movie where you're just kind of like, okay, I mean, this is very obviously like not a normal situation with your daughter. I get wanting to reacclimate her. I get wanting to support her and be there for her. But so you're having to constantly readjust and reset your suspension of disbelief because it gets severely tested. But I don't know, man. I had fun with it as a R-rated horror movie. One thing I definitely did like, and I wanted to bring up because we just did. I would say we just did. It was a fucking year ago almost now, but we did some mummy movies, and that was one of the things we talked about. In that is like the mummy as a character, as like an archetype or as a monster, creature, whatever else. Just an odd thing to do, and also odd that it survived. Like, it's part of the Universal Monsters pantheon. Like it gets included. It looks cool. The mummy, I think, always like has a cool look, but then when you actually sit down and watch one of the movies, they're either very boring. Well, sometimes it's add boring to the entire list of other things I'm about to say. But other times it's like, yeah, this is a guy in bandages who can barely walk. Like, that's not a threat. So they have to change something about it. Or in the original Universal Monsters, when they have Karloff basically like rejuvenated by the time you cut back to him and see him at the beginning of the movie. And so it's just a dude walking around. That's one thing I did like about this that I thought that they nailed pretty well, was making her like a creature sort of thing. So the bandage, I won't spoil the bandages thing. The way they do the bandages thing is cool, I thought. It's a body horror deal. So there's body horror happening at different points. The way that she moves, I've seen people kind of dismissively be like, "Oh, this is The Exorcist," but like, and I kind of made that joke earlier. I didn't find it quite that like obvious. I felt like the mummy stuff was still a big part of it. Part of what makes the movie messy is that there, like I said, it's too long. There's too much going on. One of the like, I don't know, good and bad things about it being overstuffed is there's a B plot going on with the like missing persons, like government field agent woman who is assigned to their case 8 years prior. She's like a junior field agent. I don't remember the actress's name. She was the female lead in the Moon Knight TV show that they did on Disney Plus, and she was great on that. She's great in this. She's genuinely probably the best actor in this movie. So anyway, 8 years later, she's now this like seasoned field agent, and the movie has this B plot that's like honestly feels like Seven, like the David Fincher movie almost, where she's doing crime shit. Like she's knocking on doors and interviewing people and dealing with all the shady shit that's going down and helping this family. And it's pretty cool. Like it's honestly, I was really into those sequences of the movie. There is another part of you even as you're enjoying those sequences that is like, what the fuck's going on in this movie? Like why am I watching this in this movie that is ostensibly like about a family with a possessed kid and like the Conjuring-esque sort of vibe that is the core of the movie. So it's a weird thing where like there's a lot of messiness to it, but it kind of still works and it's still fun. I think there would be a leaner, better version of the movie in there somewhere. But at least for my money, it was good enough that I had fun with it and was able to just kind of enjoy it. And and then I mentioned this briefly. Last thing I'll say, I did find it kind of weird. There are multiple moments in here that feel more like an Evil Dead movie than his fucking Evil Dead movie felt like, which I thought was odd too. Like the Hole in the Ground, his first film, I haven't seen it since around when it came out, so it's been years. My memory of that though is that it was like a pretty quiet Irish kind of folk inspired horror movie, not quite like a Babadook or in that, but closer to that realm of like, you know, intense family drama kind of shit with a horror backdrop. So I thought it was interesting that he made Evil Dead Rise, and then for his next movie, which wasn't an Evil Dead movie, he went even more Evil Dead and big with it, as I thought he would kind of go back a little bit to his roots or whatever else. Anyway, thought it was interesting. There are some shots in this that are straight up like Sam Raimi, like Evil Dead hero kind of close-ups and stuff, which I found weird. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I haven't seen a lot of people on Letterboxd that I follow have even really watched it. I don't know that it's hit in a way that they were hoping or expecting it would. I immediately worried when I saw that they added his name to the front of it, because I was like, oh, this is always a gamble especially when something doesn't make money. Yeah. So I'm not sure how well it's
whatever it's called.
Yeah. Well, in his case, I read an article actually about this exact phenomena, because they brought up Carpenter, because starting with Carpenter with Halloween, he put his name on the front of it as a way of kind of signaling like, I have ownership here, which is something that they were not given back. So, and then he put his name in front of every movie he made after that. So the article I was reading talked about the history of that and was kind of touching on Lee Cronin's, not embarrassment, but basically being like, this was not my idea. Like, it wasn't like I came to them and said, let's put my name on the front of it. Like they wanted to do that, and they wanted to lean into the auteur sort of, whatever singular voice of this movie. Like my fingerprints are all over every aspect of it, and it makes sense, blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
but when it doesn't do well, you don't necessarily probably love that it has your name attached to the title, is my guess.
I genuinely assumed that it was just because there's probably another Mummy movie coming out in the relatively near future, so they thought, well, let's just make sure that people can differentiate.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't hurt. Yeah.
But,
It's I just looked it up, at least on Wikipedia. I don't know if it's super up to date, but it cost $22 million and has made 53 so far. So not a huge failure. Yeah, I mean, not a runaway success by any stretch, but
well, it's getting towards that. What I've come to learn recently, you need 3 times your budget, not 2 times.
Yeah.
Right. So it's approaching it. So good for them, because I don't think it necessarily. I've seen the trailers for it, obviously, because I made the Ryan Dunn joke to you in the chat. Yeah. I guess I should mention that for the listeners in a second. But yeah, it didn't feel like it had an awful lot of effort put behind the advertising for it. It was literally just like, here's a bunch of clips and this is the name of the movie. Come and see it if you want. Like I've seen much better advertising campaigns for movies recently than this one. But that may just be this specific area that they're not putting too much effort into. The Ryan Dunn thing was, for those that aren't aware, there was a film a long time ago called Jackass, and a guy called Ryan Dunn stuck a toy car up his arse and then went to the doctor's surgery saying, I fell asleep at a party and I woke up and I can't sit down properly. And the doctor took an X-ray, and then there was a bunch of really funny shots of people's expressions when they were looking at the X-ray, and they could quite clearly see like a Micro Machines toy car. It is a
Matchbox style.
Oh yeah,
car,
sorry, it's not Micro Machines. It's bigger than
significantly larger
Yeah.
than a Micro Machines.
And the reason that I bring all this up is there's a line in the trailer where it says, "What was our daughter doing in a 3,000-year-old Egyptian sarcophagus?" And every time I hear that line, I immediately think to myself, maybe you shoved it up your ass.
Is that what the doctor
Which
says?
is what the doctor says when Ryan Dunn says, "How did a toy car get up there?" He said, "I don't know. Maybe you shoved it up your ass."
So yeah, I'll unfortunately think about that every time this movie comes up. So
You're
thanks
welcome,
for that, Dave. But yeah, I would recommend. I don't know. This is a weird one. I liked it. I would say that if you watched the trailer for it and you thought it looked stupid or there was something about it that you don't like or are not interested in, you won't like it. It's not going to subvert your expectations. I think it's pretty much what's there is what it is. It is surprisingly gory, I will say that too, at different points. There's one body horror, violent, like gross out gore gag thing that happens in it that me and Sean visibly like we both, so the theater we go to has like reclining seats and stuff, and so I don't go full recline when I watch movies, but I'll put my feet up. Yeah. And so I'm like, we're both kind of like leaning back, and you could just see both of our like just contorting in our seats at how like gross and just fucking yeah, it's a pretty great body horror gag. So it has its moments for sure, but it's probably for most people going to be one that you catch on streaming later, is my guess.
Yeah.
And then very quickly, a little small shout out to a video game I've been playing this week when I can fit in a little bit of time. And that is Vampire Crawlers. So this is a horror game.
I've seen this, yes.
It's filled with monsters and beasts and everything except for vampires, honestly. That's kind of one of the jokes with the franchise. But yeah, this is a spin-off sort of Vampire Survivors, which I've talked about on the show a lot. I'm a massive Vampire Survivors fan. I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours on it, on multiple systems, played all the DLCs. Just a great, chill sort of game, which I think you started playing when I was in Germany last year, Dave, now that I'm thinking about this.
I think I very quickly played it on your Nintendo Switch. And
on the
then
Switch, okay.
When I got back home, I may have already downloaded it on Android on my phone to give it a try, but I wasn't a massive fan of... I'm never a fan of touch controls on Android.
Yeah, me
so
neither.
I ended up taking the unusual step of going out, buying a credit for Nintendo eShop and purchasing it, because I very rarely buy anything on Nintendo eShop. In fact, that's the only thing that I've ever bought on there. And yeah, so I picked it up from there and got really, really obsessive with it, but with one specific character. The whip dude. None of the other ones, I didn't care about any of the others. I tried playing them and I couldn't get the hang of them. There's like a witch on a broom, and I'd have no idea how.
Hers is nuts. Yeah, she has the cats and stuff.
Yeah, like how she's supposed to kill anything at the beginning, I have got no idea. But yeah, it's a fun game. I didn't realize it was a spin-off.
Yeah, so Vampire Survivors is the like OG,
yes.
And then that's the one that they've built on, and then it was such a massive success that they've added in. I read an article the other day that Ponkel, the like developer, they have like 15 games right now in production between stuff that they're like directly. I think a few that they're directly working on. Yeah, but then I think a lot of them are like licensing or working like helping distribute other indie people's games. So it's more than just their own projects, but. Anyway, all that to say, like, a sign of huge success for them. And so this was one of the projects that they announced last year when they did a bunch of announcements. And it is basically Vampire Survivors, but turned into a roguelike deck builder in a way. But in in a way that you kind of have to, roguelike deck builder, like dungeon crawler, hence the crawler word in Vampire Crawler. So you are in first person, like old school computer RPG, old school, like dungeon crawler style game where it's in first person. You've got a screen within your screen that is your first person view. And then you've got, like health and mana or whatever shit around the rest of the screen. But then they've figured out a way to sort of like streamline and automate so much of the stuff in Survivors into a roguelike deck builder. So you're going to the same areas, same characters, that kind of stuff, but from a first person perspective, as opposed to this like, bird's eye view that you have with Vampire Survivors. And it's addictive and fun in a different way than Vampire Survivors, but I think there's still some overlap. Vampire Survivors has so much dopamine hitting you with the gems adding up and the effects on the screen. And as you build all of your different powers that the waves of enemies get bigger and bigger. There's a similar thing going on here where there's just like massive amounts of shit happening on the screen once you get the hang of it. And they have a cool mechanic with the cards where in terms of, keep saying mana because of fucking magic, but like the cost for playing the card is if you play them in order, they compound. So if you have one that costs 0, then you play one that costs 1, then you play one that costs 2. The more you are able to keep it sequential, the bigger the bonuses and like damage boosts that will happen. So it's a very simple mechanic, but one that keeps the game moving super, super quick, and it engages your brain in a really fun way. And then, just Castlevania horror, old school 8-bit inspired everything. So monsters and demons and castles and fucking vampire hunters and all kinds of cool shit. So, wanted to briefly mention it. Super fun. Much like Vampire Survivors, it is also like less than $10. I think Vampire Survivors is like $5 or $6. I want to say this was like $7 or $8, maybe a little bit more. But still very cheap. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I wanted to recommend it really quickly. And that is it for me this week. So let's get into our main topic. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we're talking about the film Thesis from 1996, a Spanish horror thriller film, and the featured debut of director Alejandro Amenábar. It was written by Amenábar and Mateo Gil. I've never actually heard his last name said out loud. Is that how you guys would pronounce it? Or Andi, maybe you've heard it in an interview and I just said it completely wrong.
I don't think that I've ever heard it spoken out loud by a Spanish-speaking person, but Amenábar would be what I would have pronounced it. And you being able to speak Portuguese, I think you're probably pretty close.
I mean, there's a footballer that plays for Tottenham who has the same surname, and they pronounce it Gil. But
what?
I know. I don't know what nationality he is.
Oh, are you talking about
Mateo Gil. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I'm talking about
Amenábar.
I was like, they pronounced it Hill.
I was sure you're doing a joke. I was sure this is a bit.
No.
They pronounce it Smith.
Names are wild. So Amenábar, I know him, and you might know him from some other movies that he made. After Thesis, he went on to make just the next year a movie called Abre los Ojos, Open Your Eyes, which was then remade in America by Cameron Crowe as Vanilla Sky. And then just a few years after that, he made The Others with Nicole Kidman, which I watched a lot growing up for whatever reason. And he's made a bunch of films since then, has gone back, it seems like, and done more stuff in Spain, Spanish filmmakers, et cetera, projects centered in that country and connected to it, so on and so forth. So it wasn't a thing where it was like they had a Hollywood break-in and then they just kept going there. I had never heard of this movie. It stars Ana Torrent, Fele Martinez, Eduardo Noriega. As I mentioned, 1996, and it is about how do we explain this movie? It's a very plotty movie. I think at its core, in a sentence, it's about a couple of film students who discover some snuff things that lead to a bigger snuff conspiracy plot that's maybe happening at their school. This was one, Andi, you brought to us this week. It was on your list. I did end up watching it on Broly. I don't know how the Broly app works for you guys, but I had a lot of trouble watching it on my Apple TV. The sound would just keep going out, and it wasn't happening with any other apps or anything else. And then I tried to watch it on my phone, through their website, and that was just stopping. It kept cutting off. And then I finally downloaded the Broly app on my phone and finished the movie on my phone through their app, and then that worked fine. But it is free on Broly. Let's go around the room here and talk about what we thought overall. Andi, kick us off. This was your pick this week. You brought it to us. What did you think of Thesis?
I'm sad to hear that you had a bad experience with Broly, because I've watched a few things, Mad Heidi, for example, and some other movies, The Love Witch that we did recently, and now this one. And I watched it on the browser. I can't talk about their app, but just the browser, the laptop connected to the TV, and it worked wonderfully for me every time. Okay. So yeah, this movie, I as I may have mentioned in a past episode, I recently went on Broly again after quite some time and discovered their catalog had changed in the sense that more movies are available in Germany. In the past, the last time that we did some movies on Broly, it was always, I can see the catalog, but for many movies it says not available in your country, and we always had to check where is it available actually. And now it seems like every movie that I can see on their website, every movie is available in Germany, and there's movies on there that are not easy to get in Germany. And there you can just go on the website. You don't even have to log in. You don't have to verify your age, and you can watch Terrifier 2 or I Saw the Devil. And movies like that. So anyway, I went through the catalog, wrote down some movies that would be potentials for the show, and Thesis was one of those. I had never seen the movie either up until today, and I think The Others is the only Amenábar movie that I've ever seen. But Thesis is a movie that I was aware of for the past something like 25 years or so, probably when Vanilla Sky came out, because I watched Vanilla Sky and I was a huge fan of that movie, and I was probably the only one. And then, of course, with from a European perspective, whenever America remakes a movie from Europe, it's always the original is always better, of course. And if you like Vanilla Sky, you just haven't seen Abra los Ojos. And that one was so much better. But Thesis is even better than that one. That is the actual masterpiece by Alejandro Amenábar. That's the gist of what I got 25 years ago. And I was there, but I liked Vanilla Sky. That movie did haunt me in my dreams. That was one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had with a movie, where after having seen the movie that night, I had a dream where my mind took the more or less the core of the movie, but implemented it into my own life, and I cartoonishly woke up in the middle of the night from this nightmare, because in my dreams my life had changed so dramatically, and I had to check is the woman still next to me in bed that I'm suspecting should be there. Anyway, so that's how I got to know about Thesis, because a friend told me about it back then, but I had never seen it. And then when we did Broken last week, and it had this big snuff component to it, and I went through the list, and I thought, well, let's just stay with the snuff topic and do Thesis next. And you guys agreed. And I must say I had a great time watching the movie. Which I did not necessarily expect. I don't know or at least I thought I might not be quite in the right headspace to read subtitles for 2 hours and watch a Spanish movie from the 90s. But the movie quickly won me over. I was definitely drawn in by the aesthetic of the movie, by the soundtrack, by how it was shot. Many references came into my head. Felt like an Argento movie, just aesthetically from the style of it and from the synth soundtrack of the movie. And I thought they did a pretty good job of keeping me as a viewer on the edge of what's the resolution to this movie? Who is the actual killer here? Who will it be? Is it this one? Is it this one? Or is it completely different character? So I was never quite sure who it would be. And then of course there's this whole component of the movie also being a commentary on violence in media, violence in movies, especially at the end. It hammers its message home pretty hard. But I overall liked it a lot. Maybe a little too long. 2 hours. Yeah, maybe there's a few moments that could have been tightened. But I felt it was a strong movie aesthetically and from the storytelling and from the story itself. I was very glad having seen this one and would definitely recommend checking it out. How was your reaction?
Dave, let's have you go next. Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed it. I wasn't aware that this was his debut, but I think it looks very good for a debut. Maybe a little bit less filmic and more TV-ish, but you do come across this from time to time with films that are made outside of the Hollywood system and the traditional cinema systems. I say traditional cinema systems, like Spain has had cinema for years. I mean, they make a point in this movie of talking about how they're lagging behind Hollywood, but they've been making movies for a long time. It's just that for me, they do look a little different, and it's not even like. For some reason, I was watching this film and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we'll get any Giallo influence. And I don't know why. I think maybe because I hear Hitchcockian, and for some reason, Giallo and Hitchcock fit so nicely alongside each other, despite the fact that visually they've never looked similar. I'm kind of sitting there getting my source materials mixed up or something. I don't know. I definitely felt the Hitchcock influence in the film. I got to literally about 15 minutes into the movie, and I thought to myself, I know who the bad guy is. And I was right and wrong at the same time, and I'm delighted about that, because I always enjoy it when a film can surprise me right up until the end and leave me guessing as to what's actually going on, but not in a cheap way. And I didn't feel like this was done in a cheap way. I think it was very honest and forthright, and it just it didn't hold things back for the sake of wanting to trick the audience. It held things back because we're seeing things from the point of view of the main character, and that's the information that the main character is getting. So yeah, I very much enjoyed the way that the plot was put together, and the twists and turns and the ups and downs and all of that malarkey. I've got nothing bad to say about it, but I'm not a movie critic. I have not done any formal training where it comes to cinema or visual arts. So I literally can just sit here and say, I like this thing. I didn't like this thing. I would have done this thing differently because I'm an idiot. But that's about all I can really say. So I did pick up on some of the commentary it was laying down in terms of how Spanish cinema is trying to come out from the shadow of what was happening in America, and to a lesser extent, I would imagine, like the British cinema system, which, thanks to our special relationship and close ties to America, we've kind of fed off of Hollywood to an extent. There's a lot of Hollywood movies that are made in the UK, and a lot of talent exchange, and that goes back years and years and years, even further back than the obvious example that I can think of, which is when Star Wars was made exclusively in the UK. with a American director, American cast, but the crew was almost entirely British and European, from what I'm aware of. I could be wrong on that one. But I very much enjoyed it. I thought that I don't often pick up on the music in these things. You guys know this. But I did pick up on the score for this movie, and I thought it was very effective in bringing tension to a climax. I want to make a special mention, because although I've said that it didn't really look filmic to me, I do have to say that the scenes where, and my pronunciation of his name is going to be horrible, but Chima and Angela, they're in the underground tunnels and the lights have been turned off, and so they're just finding their way by using a bunch of matches. I really enjoy the shot of the camera sitting behind them as they're walking in single file down this hallway, and you can tell that it's not a candle that's lighting it, or a match even. It's like it's some kind of light that they're using because it's more effective and more practical for filming reasons. But it looked amazing to me. Like, it really did. I didn't care that I was like, well, there's no flicker from the match or anything like that. I just kind of put that to one side, and I was like, this is a really good looking shot. And then they kind of move shots to the front, so you're seeing things from the point of view of you're not seeing it from their point of view. You're looking at the characters as they're walking down this hallway. It gives you this really kind of hemmed in, claustrophobic feel. That for me was one of the scenes that really kind of stood out, and I don't know why, other than darkness, light, use of, I don't know, fucking layman here. So yeah, very, very much enjoyed it. Might have gone a little bit long, but that's a minor criticism. I did enjoy watching the film, so had no idea he was responsible for the original source material for the movie whose name I've forgotten now.
Vanilla Sky.
Yeah, Vanilla Sky, that's the one. You know, my memory, boys, it's terrible. Someone save me. David, what did you think?
It's all good. I am the exact mixture of both of your guys' experiences with this one. So I had no idea what this was. I didn't have, unlike other movies we've talked about, like Andi mentioned, this had been on his radar for 20 years. As far as I remember, I had never heard of this. You recommended it last week. I had a brief moment when I saw the poster, saw how old it was, and saw that it was in Spanish, where I was like, going to be a harder assignment this week than the 20-minute music video fest that we watched, the Nine Inch Nails thing that we watched this past week. But okay, let's do it. Once I saw the filmmaker, I was like, oh shit, okay. I connected some dots there. I was like, I had no idea. I knew the others, and Abre los Ojos, I knew about his some of his movies he had made since then. He did one with Rachel Weisz called Agora, which is like about an ancient Greek mathematician, or so. I remember when that came out. So he was on my radar in that sense, but yeah, I had no clue that this was his first movie, that it was a horror movie. And then I think I went into it expecting it to be like what you mentioned, Andi, kind of just like, okay, it's 2 hours long. It's going to be in Spanish. It's going to be older. Like I can't watch this half away. I need to really lock in. And I was pretty shocked by how within minutes I was like, oh fuck, this movie's good. Like this is a dude who knew what he was doing pretty much out the gate. It reminded me in some ways of the feelings I have when I watch Cronos, in the sense that you can tell and feel that this is a filmmaker that we have seen a lot from later. This is them at their youngest that we've seen them, and this is them at likely the smallest budget we've seen them work with too. But you can also fully tell it's him. Like when you watch Cronos, like you could tell it's Del Toro. It's different, and it definitely has a different sort of vibe, and he's figuring shit out. But you can tell that it's him, and you can see some of those moments, whether it's character stuff or the visuals. There's a lot of stuff with lighting in this that I thought looked fantastic. Like you mentioned, Dave, there's that whole sequence with the matches, which I thought was really great. But just kind of constantly throughout it, he does interesting stuff. He does cool stuff with slow motion, even at the beginning. I really liked that choice of having her step out of the line. to try to see the dead body on the train. Like within seconds, we're getting some pretty great character writing development for our protagonist with no dialogue. Like it is such a distinct and very easily communicated visually sort of storytelling of like, this girl isn't a maniac, but clearly she's got something about her that's different than everybody else. You've got people that are trying to avoid seeing what's going on the track. Like, not only is she looking, but she gets out of line to try to see what's going on. So it has tons of little decisions and moments like that. Sometimes they're comedic and they work really well. Like I thought it was really funny. There's two moments with her that I thought were really funny in the movie that I think were supposed to be funny, where she is running away, I think in both cases from Bosco. In the first one, she runs into a classroom and sits down the moment the class ends, which I thought was a good move. I was like, that's clever. No other movie would do that. It's funny. And then she does a similar thing later on in the movie where she runs into her house and hides in her house. And then her mom's like, hey, your friend's out here. Like, it completely diffuses the tension of the scene, which there is genuine suspense and tension in it too. Like, it's not a gag. It's not a joke before that. Like, so there's this weird sort of comedic beat, but also this like de-heightening of the scene that they had built, I think, pretty well. I think all of the characters are really well written. I think they're really well acted. I mentioned Del Toro a second ago. I knew I recognized that Bosco motherfucker. And finally, midway through the movie, I paused it and I was like, he's the dude in Devil's Backbone. So he's the young guy that's having sex with the older lady that runs like the orphanage or whatever with the one leg. She has one leg, right? Or is it the other guy? It's him. It's her. Anyway, he's the like, I don't want to spoil Devil's Backbone. Great movie, but he's in that movie. So that's what I remembered him from. And yeah, like the stuff with the school I thought was great. Like even though it's over 30 years old now, almost 40 years old, it feels very like grounded and sort of real. Like the technology is obviously all old. Like there's a plot point concerning a camera that has a digital zoom, which is pretty funny and kind of quaint now. But it is legitimately good, like writing. It's a cool plot point, and like when it would have been used, and there's detective work stuff happening with them that I don't know. We've seen movies like this, templates like this that happen in films where there's like, undertrained, prepared, kids, students that are solving something. Like they're amateurs at best. They're not. And this felt like a really good blend of stuff that's kind of happening around them that they're noticing, but then also stuff that they are figuring out together. Dave, like you mentioned, the plot stays. I do think it's probably a little bit too long. There's little things here and there where you're like, it's a little rough or messy or kind of awkward. But again, in a way where you're just like, this is this person's first movie. Obviously not a lot of money. Like it never detracts or hurts the movie. That is one thing. The plot is real fucking plotty. After a while, it gets to a point where you're like, oh, the reason it's hard to pin down who's responsible for this is because tons of people are fucking lying about what different things that happened in the past. Yep. All of these people were involved in some way or another. You're just trying to figure out to what degree. In some cases, it might be someone who was just in the vicinity and was friends with these people. And then maybe they did some shady shit later on that these other people weren't party to. But Angela doesn't know that. There's even a big plot point toward the end, at the very end, where she finds that camera with the tape with her name on it. And she thinks that Chema, however you pronounce his name, has been the one stalking her. And even that is a misdirect and like a fake out or whatever. So it's constantly doing that throughout the entire movie. Like you think like, oh, okay, shit, this is the killer. This is the guy who's behind all of it. Actually, no, this guy was just the editor. There's a real killer that's, doing the killing. This guy's just doing the editing. But I think it always, even though it is kind of convoluted and they are working very hard to keep you on your toes and to keep you in the dark, there's still like a fun to it. And there's a momentum and a propulsion throughout the entire movie. I think, again, like the actors are all really great. And I think they feel very believable. And there's just like an energy to the movie. I think also stuff with snuff, when we talk about this topic in horror films, it's a weird sort of little like subtopic, it feels like to me, where it's not quite in the extreme horror camp. It's not quite in some of the more like controversial things, but there is overlap with some of that. There's obviously a fascination with it in certain kinds of horror movies. Sometimes I always think about what's the movie called? Is it 8 millimeter that we talked about last week?
Correct.
It got brought up. Yeah. I always think about 8 millimeter in that era where Hollywood was like, oh, there's these things called stuff movies. We got to make a movie about it. And there's a lurid sort of thing to it. And my experience usually with that as a topic in a horror movie, they're not great. They always just kind of like the topic is the kind of the draw. But you're doing a thing where you're supposed to be having characters interacting with, and I'm not even talking about Thesis here, but just in general, snuff film as a plot device in horror movies. Dealing with something that by its very nature and definition is so fucked up and disturbing because it is real. So there's like two layers of artificiality with artifice, whatever word, with you as a viewer, because you're watching people pretending to find something that's supposed to be real, but obviously also isn't. So there's this kind of like removed thing where, and I don't know. I think for all of those reasons, at least for me, with my mileage and snuff as a topic in horror movies, it just never really lands. It kind of meanders, or the subject matter, the shocking nature is kind of just the entire thing. I felt like they handled it really well in this. The times where we see snuff films or dark shit in here, it's clearly not real, which I thought was a good, like when he's watching clips with her over at his apartment that, I forget what it's called now, blood something or something blood. Like it's clearly stuff they filmed. At least it looks that way to me. Like it's not real. But there is because I think the actors are so good, there is still you still buy into it. Like you can suspend your disbelief. And then when we get to the actual like really kind of hardcore shit in the movie, it was a lot more violent than I expected. I didn't expect them to show as much stuff as they did. But B, I felt like they also had like kind of a perfect balance of showing enough that you're just like, holy shit, but then also not showing a lot of it. So that your reaction is based off of the characters' reactions and what they're seeing, and then also seeing the different ways that they aren't reacting to it as well. So anyway, the snuff angle and on all that stuff I thought was done really well. I don't remember them really getting into in detail and explaining like how it got. I'm guessing that professor just helped edit because he was making money. Like it's a pretty hardcore thing to get involved with just for money, but he only has that one line that I caught anyway, about saying, like, oh, there's these tapes are in demand, or there's a big business around this or something.
What they want, I think.
Yeah,
is
that's what
he
it is.
Because he said it in a lecture, and then he repeats it again when
in the basement.
Yeah, when he's giving his big Scooby-Doo villain speech.
Yeah. So other than that, like I think I forget what my original point was now. Anyway, yeah, I overall to say agree with both of you guys. I really dug it. Like I thought it was really well made and looked great. Acted all the acting was great, and just had a fun. There's also a lot of stuff. This is mentioned in the Wikipedia article too. There's a lot of subversion with tropey shit too, with her, with Angela, with doing the final girl thing and having her be, if there is a final girl in this movie that's not really a slasher. Really, does anybody? I mean, there's victims in the snuff films, but none of the main characters. I guess the two bad guys do. We're not seeing a ton of people get killed. It's not that kind of movie necessarily. But having her be someone who isn't really a damsel. There was one thing about her that I was like, man, I don't really love this trope in movies and TV shows. But then I read something on the Wikipedia article later where I was like, oh, okay, you know what? And this one, it kind of makes sense. That whole thing where it's like, and it usually ends up being inevitably a female character who is dealing with multiple shitty men. Maybe one, and usually situations like this where it's like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who's lying to me. I don't know who's the actual bad guy and who is just like the smoldering hot bad boy who I'm attracted to. So there's this thing where it's like the screenwriters will put this female, typically female character in this position of having to like kind of be a caretaker to all of them and be like soft-hearted with everybody. And there was a part toward the end of the movie where it was straining me a little bit, where I was just like, Angela, like, you gotta fucking like very clearly this guy is no good and is been shady at every turn. This other guy's a weirdo, but like you've been able to trust your friend. There is a little bit of that where you're just kind of like, you gotta let go of some of this. Like Bosco's hot, but he's not that hot, like not worth, all of these decisions that you're making. But then the thing I saw on Wikipedia was talking about a critic specifically mentioned how they viewed that relationship with Bosco in particular as a metaphor for our relationship with this shit, with violence and media and everything else, where there's a repulsion, but also an attraction to it. And then especially for some people, how they can get really wrapped up. And we've talked about this on the podcast with serial killer stuff and culture and glorifying shit that is fucked up and dark and shouldn't be glorified and everything else. So I think it does work in this movie on that level, where there is an attraction for her for this Bosco guy, even though, you know, he's clearly bad news. And I will say too, the movie did spin me around a couple times on him, where I was like, I think at first her running into him with the camera, there's part of you that's just like, there's absolutely no way this guy is involved. Like,
I thought the same
just
thing.
some dude she saw.
How many of these Sony cameras, one of the biggest brands in the world, have been sold in this part of Spain alone?
But they do a good job of kind of teasing it out from there. And so I was very surprised by this. I thought it was great.
I thought that was one of the moments, and there's a few of those moments in the movie where it goes a little too straight to the answer. Where the first guy that I see with that camera, and for especially Gemma is the one that is super certain that of course that is the guy. Okay, later on we learned that they had a relationship, so he might have known more about Bosco, but him constantly berating Angela for saying, well, he might not be the guy, and he is super certain that he is the guy, and we as viewers only know, well, he has that camera. That doesn't necessarily mean he needs to be the killer. I assume that camera probably wasn't sold as often in the 90s. It seemed like a pretty big professional camera, which was probably very expensive in the 90s, so it didn't seem like for like a home consumer camera, but still she goes to some office and finds out who bought that camera 2 years ago and gets all the data.
Like the Sony offices also, too.
Which is also very weird. But so I already mentioned that I got big like Argento vibes from the movie, especially the music and just the camera aesthetic.
Also by Amenábar, by the way, the music. Sorry, just to add that in there, which I thought was interesting, and it's notable music too. Like it's not a easy little cushiony score. Go ahead.
From the plot and story and everything, I felt like this could also have been a Korean thriller. It very much felt to me like one of those Japanese or Korean detective movies from probably the early 2000, like an early Bong Joon-ho movie or something like that. And I was captivated the whole time through. There was one shot, because when Dave mentioned the shot with the matches in the basement, I was reminded of a shot that I really enjoyed early on. When Angela goes up to Gemma in the class to talk to him, and he runs away, and then they meet again in the cafeteria or whatever it is, and they sit opposite from each other and opposite corners of the room, and they both have headphones on, and then they look at each other, and the camera cuts back and forth, and depending on whose viewpoint you're inhabiting in that moment, you listen to that person's music. So the music switches from heavy metal and to, I think, classical music is what she's listening to. And then he goes up to her, and you have this back and forth until they both take out their headphones. I thought that was very well made and a very atmospheric moment, having this. Because you always look directly into the person's eyes, so you are inhabiting the space of the point of view of the other person. It goes back and forth, and then the music switches back and forth. I thought it was very well made. Nice moment.
I thought I really liked that part too. That's definitely that same kind of I don't even know what to call it, like unknown quality that I feel with her sitting down in that class when the bell goes off and her mom diffusing that. It's it's little things that are very easy in the sense that like it's not like there was a very complicated technical whatever shot here. It's not something that cost a bunch of money, but it's also stuff we don't really see in other movies that are done. I mean, to that point, that scene with him approaching and the music and everything else, like most movies would have just had him walk up to the table. Like that would have been the shot. It would have been it. But
like,
taking that
it feels
time,
like a young filmmaker trying out things that he thinks are clever movie making tools and tricks, and sometimes with such movies it can feel a little overdone, where you think, well, just stick to the craft. Don't get too clever. Don't try too many crazy things. But it didn't feel that way here. These moments don't take over the movie in the sense that you as a viewer are taken out of the movie and you're just sitting there. Oh well, he thought the filmmaker thought he was so clever with this specific trick here, but no, it felt very fitting to the movie. And another moment that I thought that was very interesting, and I think plays into the whole topic of the discussion of why do we watch violent movies, and is there a too far? When they are at Gemma's apartment and they watch that first snuff movie, and Angela, for the first time in the movie, isn't able to watch. She turns around, and he is describing what he is seeing to her and also to us as the viewers, because we don't see the TV either. So we are in her position. So it is one clever. They don't have to show any too violent images. They don't have to film those images, and they don't have to show them. But it also brings us into her position and into the discussion in our own heads. Would we like to see that, or is it okay if we only hear his description of those moments? And I think there's probably a lot to analyze in this movie throughout the whole movie with such moments, because some things they do show from the snuff movies, and then of course the movie itself shows violence. So there's this discussion between the movie and its topic and us as the viewers of the film, where you can of course always argue, well, if you're criticizing that people are consuming violent media, but you're also producing violent media to criticize violent media, so are you successful in your criticism, or are you just playing into the same game here, where you're giving us violent media? And I'm sure, at least in Spain, there's just probably many film students who write papers on this movie. And I think, I don't know if you mentioned that, David, early on, this movie won like I think 7 Goyas, and the Goya is the Spanish Oscar, the Spanish Academy Award, and this won Best Picture and Best Director. And for the Academy Awards, the only moment where you can probably think of a horror movie winning as that many Oscars is The Silence of the Lambs. Spain might be a little more lenient with giving awards to genre movies. But then it is not only a genre movie, it is also an interesting thesis, no pun intended, on the topic. So yeah, very well made, and again a debut filmmaker winning all those awards. So well done.
That's crazy. And crazy that he was able to continue on and make a huge impact still in totally different movies as well. Like it's not like this is an early version of Seven, and then later on we see David Fincher makes it like this is a totally different vibe and style from Abre los Ojos and from the others, and then the rest of his filmography. Honestly, like I'm sure that there are through lines and connections and you can make, but just subject matter wise, way different.
I've been doing a little bit of research because it was a TX500, at least in the film, and I was like, I wonder how much that actually was at the time. So I looked it up, and it doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least the TX500 as a model name for a Sony handheld professional camera does not exist. But I think that's probably because they realised that calling it a Sony CCD V8 AFE probably would have been a little bit of a mouthful. So for the sake of the movie, they renamed it the TX500. But if we're assuming that the camera was based on a CCD V8, then the base price for the manual focus version of that at the time was $1,300. So yeah, you were talking about a pretty pricey camera, and that's not including the digital zoom, which would have been a premium feature and probably doubled the price of the camera. So yeah, but there were 13 of them that the school bought. So
the school must have had some real coin.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
I mean, they teach cinema, but still.
Yeah. I wanted to comment on something that David said, and I'm just realizing as I say that I've forgotten what it was. But
I've got something I wanted to throw out there while you think of that.
Oh, it was the violence. Yeah. No, I just wanted to weigh. Sorry, I just wanted to weigh in and say basically agree with what both of you guys said about the fact that I thought it was very effective the way that they portrayed the violence in all of the actual snuff films in this movie. The fact that once again they're kind of leaving your imagination to fill in the blanks. The fact that very early on in the movie, when she first goes to watch the film, she turns the contrast all the way down so that she can only hear the movie. Yeah. And then she records it onto tape and listens to the tape as she's sleeping. I mean, that's fucking nightmare fuel. But also, like, if
I thought about that scene.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying, I thought about that scene and how confusing it would be to a younger person watching it. Of like, what the fuck is she doing? Like,
I know
that's such an old school and like, I liked that part a lot too.
Just because like all you're hearing is what she's hearing, which is that screaming, and your mind conjures up all of these images immediately. You can't help it. And then when you do see images from the film, they're either the quote-unquote more tame aspects of her being beaten at the very beginning, or the bits at the end which are a little bit out of focus and a little bit zoomed in, so the pixelization of the... or the pixelation even, of the CRT screen makes it difficult to pick up any real high resolution. Thank God for standard def people. When they're like chopping up what may as well just be a side of pork, for all we know, and probably was actually. It leaves out a lot of that crucial detail, which makes us fill in the blanks and makes it that much more disturbing. Very much enjoyed that. David, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, to tag on to that point too, one thing I thought was interesting, it took me back to living in Brazil, was especially at the end where we have, and I think maybe it was you, Andi, earlier alluded to this, it's a little heavy-handed, where it's like, we're going to show these scenes of violence now on the news, and we're cutting to people watching it in the hospital or whatever.
That was mad.
But there was part of me that was like, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is also different than it is in other countries too. Because in Brazil, I don't know how it is now, but when I was growing up there in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was the relationship with the media and violence and the public was completely different than it was here in the States. So in Brazil, I was trying to remember if it was every day in the paper or every weekend like it is here with comics. I think it's every day. I'm only laughing because it's dark. There was a section of the newspaper in Brazil, in the city that I lived in, that would have like the accidents, like the traffic page or whatever of like the stuff that had happened that day in the city or whatever, car crashes, whatever else. And very quickly, my mom came to us, was like, you guys don't look through the papers, because they would just print full color pictures of like fucking corpses, like people that had gotten thrown out of a car in a car wreck the day before, and like their heads cracked open on the sidewalk. There'd be a picture in the paper of it. Obviously, not every country is going to be the exact same way, but I wondered if there was some similarities in terms of, because like stuff like that showing a snuff film on the news, even back when I lived in Brazil, wouldn't have been crazy. They showed softcore porn at night after like 8 p.m. So on basic channel TV. So the cultural standards, practices, whatever, and then also the actual, communication standards and practices were totally different. And it pulled me back to that at the end, because at first I was like, why the fuck would they show this snuff film on TV? And then quickly was like, I bet they would have in Brazil. Like, at least when I lived there, the dynamic is totally different. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing I was going to say is earlier, one thing I really liked that they paid off that most movies don't do is there are some, I wouldn't want to say necessarily cheap. The movie's well made and I think they're earned, but it is a cheaper sort of thing that a lot of horror movies will do, where it's like, oh, we have this shocking moment or this jump scare or this scary thing. It's a nightmare. She's having a nightmare. She's fucked up by all these things that are happening. Blah, blah, blah. This movie has a few moments like that. One in particular that goes on a while where she's like starts straight up getting oral sex from Bosco and then wakes up. But there's a callback at the end of the movie where you realize that some of those nightmares were real. I thought that was so cool. Most movies wouldn't take the time to do that. And he does it in a really subtle way. But there's one part in particular early on and it's like the first 30, 40 minutes where she wakes up and thinks that she sees a red dot, like somebody recording her sleeping. And the way that they shoot it's very cool, feels very creepy and everything else. But then you piece together and realize later, like, she saw it. Like, she noticed somebody filming her. It wasn't a nightmare. The movie doesn't explicitly take you back and show but it does it in a way that I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Most movies wouldn't do that. They would just inject in the scary nightmare sequence to let you know that the protagonist is off kilter and probably exhausted and stressed out and whatever else. But this movie actually had a lot of, for how messy and plotty and convoluted it can get, it still does feel like something that they sat down and mapped out and were like, all right, here's where all these people were at these moments. Here's how this all works. Maybe it's not, but it feels plausible and it feels like they kind of thought of every angle.
Should also point out that Chema, I don't know. That boy's behavior, there's so many red flags there.
Doesn't do himself a lot of favors.
No, like the fact that she, at the end of the movie, is like, here's a really expensive first edition with "wanna get coffee" written in it.
Dude, that's another moment that I thought was funny. That old man being like, first published in 19... He's like reading the
whole thing.
That's another thing where I was like, what a easy, funny thing to do. That's like a cool little funny moment.
That was funny. It was funny. But like, man, I don't know if she's the greatest judge of boyfriend material. Like, it's literally like, this man paid attention to me. I'm gonna, I wonder if that probably says more about the writing team than it does anything else.
He's also one of those characters that like is got to be tricky to write, because you want people to like him to a certain degree.
But he's
like,
a fucking stalker.
He's a weirdo.
He broke into her house at night and recorded her, for fuck's sake.
I don't think he did that though, right? Isn't that didn't he steal one of the cameras? Yeah, I know, but he said later at the end of the movie, I thought he was saying that he took that camera from Bosco.
Attention? Okay, fair enough.
I'm pretty sure it was Bosco that was filming her.
Right.
Andi, is that what you got?
I was confused. I don't really quite know. I think
maybe I'm wrong then.
To be fair, there's so much.
Did Gemma give her the keys? Because at some point she's missing her keys, and I thought that Gemma gave her back the keys, which would mean that he was in her apartment. Maybe
I thought Bosco had the keys.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm not exactly sure anymore.
There's a lot going on.
Anyway, there was
a
lot of confusion in this film, as well as
even to your point though, Dave.
But with him getting the camera, that was one of the points where I was definitely confused when he explains that the first time I went down to the basement, I found those cameras and I took one. So that whole scene with them going through the darkness with the matches, he already knew where they were going because the cameras were back there. I didn't quite know.
That was how I took it. He throughout the whole movie, when I say he doesn't do himself any favors, one of the things he doesn't do himself any favors by is that he either straight up lies to her or leaves big shit out constantly. Obviously, there's the stuff with him knowing all these people ahead of time and having been like friendly with them and stuff. But yeah, to that's how I understood it, is that he tells her he had gone back, he had found that place, he had taken one of the cameras. That was one of the cameras, so it was Bosco's camera, not his. That's why it had the name on the tape and everything else. But why he didn't tell her that, I viewed the thing with them in the dark more about they knew somebody, or they suspected somebody was down there with them, because the lights go off while they're down there and the door gets locked. But either way, to your point, he doesn't do himself any favors throughout the entire movie. The thing I was going to say earlier is they're kind of in a tough spot with his character, because he needs to be a foil to her. He needs to be likable in a way that she isn't, or not even say it like that. There needs to be things about us that draw, or about him that draw us to him as a character, as the audience. But then also they want you to still maybe think he's the killer. So I think that's probably where some of this stuff comes from. Is it's a lot easier to just make him an unreliable narrator or somebody that's not telling the truth than it is to, use logic and deduction and gut feeling to be like, this dude's probably not the bad guy. They wanted to keep him in the mix, but it does make for kind of a weird thing at the end where you're just kind of like, you want to date this guy? Like, I mean, that's fine. He's better than Bosco, but
well, he
you don't
literally
have to date one of the two men you've just met.
He literally hung out with the face-eating leopards. Are you sure he's not also a face-eating leopard?
Yeah. I think that the movie does position him as at his core, he's not a bad dude. Like he's
just
a
into snuff
weirdo.
films
He's
and
dark. Yeah, he's kind of grimy and gross. He's abrasive. Like he's mean to her, or not even mean, but just like sarcastic and we'll say rude things. But you get the sense that like that's him. It's all these defense mechanisms he's built around. Again, like one of those scripts where the writing is strong enough at a baseline where even if the movie doesn't tell me everything about him, it's given me enough to where I'm like, okay, I think I can fill in some blanks here with
another
his
great
character.
moment in the movie, writing wise and editing wise, where Angela comes into her room and she notices that the pencils are a little askew, and she immediately knows someone was in my room. The one cupboard is open, and then she calls him and asks him, there might have been someone in your room, and his room is a total mess, and he looks around, no one was in here.
Yeah.
As if he could
Nobody was
notice
there.
any difference.
I like that too.
But maybe I'm over analyzing this, but like, why would somebody rifle through your pile of free pencils when they were searching your room? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
And very clearly moved the pencils into an N.
Into an
like
N,
it was a very distinct shape too, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some wild character stuff with that whole thing with her sister too. It's okay, but I thought that was fun. At the end where she's just like, you can't be with this guy, he's a maniac. And she's like, no, he's going to leave his girlfriend for me. And Angela's move is like, well, I guess I better go make out with him. You're just like, what are you doing? You guys could just leave. Like, there's a lot of different ways to handle this. Kissing the serial killer, maybe not at the top of your list, but...
It's all those moments in the movie that might not seem totally logical, and that ending that is very on the nose, and all those moments reminded me so much of like Italian horror movies, of Argento movies, or something like Demons, so that have oftentimes more of a supernatural bend to them that this movie does not. But these dreamy moments, or as I said, not quite logical moments, felt very much inspired by Italian horror movies from the 70s and 80s.
Andy, all it needs is a Dutch camera angle and a couple of fluorescent coloured lights. Or you just need some gels and we're there.
If you would have, I think it's Kema at the end where he's got like a black raincoat on, put some black gloves on him.
Fuck yeah.
You guys would have had your...
There you go, your classic giallo
pretty
killer.
much right there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man, it was a cool movie. I definitely we recommend tons of movies to people as we discover them. This is one that I follow one person on Letterboxd who's logged it. It's not anybody I know personally. I don't even know how I followed them at some point. So I'm not sure how they anything about their experience watching it, but they didn't leave a review or anything. But it seems criminally, I think, underseen. Yeah. I'm surprised it's not on. It hasn't been released, but maybe it has, and I just didn't look it up. But like a big boutique maybe not Scream, honestly, Criterion. It would make sense for Criterion to put this movie out. It's their kind of their bread and butter, especially for filmmakers that go on to do stuff that's more in their wheelhouse.
Looked the movie up in Germany,
feels like
and
one of those movies.
I also looked up Abra los Ojos, and neither of them are streaming in Germany. Maybe I could get a disc. I didn't check that option, but yeah, it seems like his early work isn't necessarily easily available all over the world.
But it is, as we say, it's on Broly.
Yeah.
I should have chipped in with my experience of Broly this week. It was fine. I tried watching the film on the browser that's built into my TV, and it wouldn't load. I kept getting a loading ring. So I started watching it on my phone as God intended me to. And then I was like, I can't hold this phone up for 2 hours and watch this film. So I ended up finding a version of the film on YouTube, which was a pretty decent transfer, and I had the subtitles, so I ended up watching it on there. But you can see it on Broly, you can see it on YouTube, and I would say support the official streaming release and watch it on Broly if you can. But it is on YouTube if you want to watch it on a big screen and you don't have the option to screencast it or anything like that. Because I think, unfortunately, that is an option and feature that Broly, at least the web app,
I couldn't get to work either.
have.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I will say though, I didn't want to make Cast a bad. The Brawly app and the website I thought was great. It was legitimately not anything to do with like the service or the layout or anything.
Oh yeah,
very well could be my internet. I have Xfinity, so I have just shitty bad ISP issues sometimes too. Before we started recording, you guys couldn't hear me, and I had to yell at my son to get off of Fortnite on the PC and play it on the PS5 because the internet will pull less there. So, I think it was definitely that. And as I said, I'm surprised no boutique place put it out. I was like, God damn it, Umbrella. Brawly is part of Umbrella. They probably did.
Yeah.
Australia,
and that's why it's on there. So,
there you go.
I don't know if it's still in print, but at some point, they're the ones that put it out. So, yeah. Cool. Do you guys have any other big thoughts before we do double feature picks?
No,
No,
can't say I do.
no big thoughts.
All right. Let's do it. Andi, kick us off. What'd you pick this week?
Yeah, first, of course, I thought about the snuff angle of the thing, but I didn't want to pick Peeping Tom again, which I picked for Last Night in Soho twice. And then I thought, I actually went through a list of snuff movies. There's a German Wikipedia article about snuff in movies, which only exists in German. But anyway, I then ended up picking a movie that is also a discussion about violence in film, a violent movie about violence in film. That's Michael Haneke's Funny Games, which is not about snuff, but is it only came out a year after Thesis, came out in 1997, the original one, the Austrian version. And yeah, also a movie that which deals heavily with the why do we watch violent movies, and is that okay to present violence in movies and for people wanting to see violence in movies. So I think those would pair pretty well together.
Absolutely. I'm going to go next. Normally I throw it to Dave, but I'm scared he's going to pick mine. So I'm going to go first and beat you to it. I was positive Andi was about to say mine, so I was I got to get it here quick.
Go on.
We just did it not too long ago. I think Red Room is a pretty great double feature pick with this because we're dealing with very similar ideas separated by 30 to 40 years of cultural and technological differences. So watching similar, obviously different vibe, different characters, different tone, but same themes, same sort of similar ways of handling violence and how we depict it in film. But then, whereas with this, we've got, digital zooms on Sony cameras being a plot point, and when they stopped selling them and everything else. And then in Red Room, we have a high stakes game of poker using Bitcoin so that she can buy this tape. Like it's all, digitized and modernized. And like, there's all these different things that have happened in these 30 to 40 years since the other film, but we're dealing with, at the end of the day, a lot of the same shit. And that's not, a mind-blowing observation, especially with horror, because we're revisiting topics that persist in humanity, whatever else. But in this particular way, I was like, man, that's interesting about how you can see so many of the same things line up, but it's just like apply now cultural and technological changes in the decades since. And, ultimately it's still the same problem. So yeah, that was the first one that came to my mind. Dave, what about you? Was it Red Room?
God fucking damn it. Fine. Okay, you're going to make me work. Right. It's going to take me a second because I'm going through all of these movies trying to find the one I'm thinking of, because I know the movie I'm thinking of.
To pick a movie twice.
I was going to say, you can also just pick.
I
would
have
have
done that
it
in the past. It's totally fine if two people have picked the same movie, or even three.
Nope.
Just shows that it's a good pick.
Not doing it. I would have gone with Red Rooms as well. My main reason being that the way that, as you already mentioned, David, the way that they show the content of the snuff films in Red Rooms. They barely do. In fact, I don't think they do at all. And so that, and also this kind of weird relationship that grows between two people in Red Rooms, and the way that that's kind of mirrored in this film as well. But then I also really want to pick a Hitchcock film, but I just can't think of the fucking name of it.
Frenzy.
No, it's not Frenzy. No, I was actually thinking about a Cary Grant movie. Probably Suspicion. No, it's not Suspicion. North by Northwest, probably. I don't know. Fuck it. I don't know. Any Hitchcock movie. There's one where they have a fight on the on Mount Rushmore. Or nearby Mount Rushmore.
Man Who Knew Too Much.
There you go, The Man Who Knew Too Much. Thank you, Andy.
One of my favorites.
I'm glad you nailed it down. Otherwise, I like the idea that somebody at some point is compiling all of our double feature picks for these movies, and then one day we get the list, and it'll be like Red Room, Funny Games, every Hitchcock movie from Dave's.
Pretty much.
Not just any, but every.
Every.
Just from memory, it's
a week-long double feature pick.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Man Who Knew Too Much, from memory of the last time I saw it, which was probably around Christmas time. I think I even mentioned it on the show when we were still talking about just anything. That's why I don't have a pick every week anymore, guys. We were more strict with each other. It's got a lot more of a kind of mystery vibe. It keeps you guessing going throughout. So yeah, I gotta go with that. But
also go with Rear Window. You have the
Rear Window would have been a
camera
good pick. Yeah,
motif in that one.
That's very true.
See a killer and a camera motif.
Yeah, it's not The Man Who Knew Too Much. No, I know this movie. I did see that at Christmas, but that's not the one I was thinking of. It doesn't matter.
The one with Mount Rushmore.
No, The Man Who Knew Too Much is the one that they're in like Italy or somewhere, and then they start
out in, I think, Morocco, but then
Morocco, and then they go to London. And Doris Day plays when I was just a little boy.
Que sera.
Que sera. Yeah, that's not the film I was thinking of. It doesn't matter. We're going to be here for hours otherwise. I'm going to go with Red Rooms. Fuck it. Or a Hitchcock movie. Take your pick. They're all Hitchcockian. Literally, that's the reason they're called Hitchcockian. Because they're
Every Hitchcock movie.
The Birds. Go for The Birds. Fuck it. I don't know why.
Let's do The Birds. Listeners, let us know if you watched this movie, and if you haven't, go watch it. As mentioned, Brawley.
North by Northwest with the Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is North by Northwest.
That's the one.
Check it out. Let us know what you thought of Thesis. I will say, last thing on our way out, that's probably the only thing I don't love about the movie. That makes it sound like I'm obsessed with the movie. I think the title's a little weak. It makes sense. I get it. It's just kind of a boring title. I don't know why I'm ending on a bad note, but that was, as I was watching it, I was like, this does kind of feel like a young man's title. Let us know what you thought of Thesis if you watched it. Again, it's on Broly, streaming for free. It's definitely one I think we recommend and people should check out. Very underseen. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Keep watching horror movies, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.